Okay, better. Good, we've got that going. And looks like we've got video going. Theoretically, everything's good. One second, and then I will know for certain. Yep. All right. Probably aren't going to get any people watching, but that is okay. This is mostly kind of an experiment to make sure that I can go live, because I do go live with my review channel, as odd as that sounds. But it's fun, you know. I often will talk about what I have in the pipeline and maybe review something live, which is always a kind of a hoot. It's also where I do giveaways and stuff like that. But making sure that I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Making sure that I'm able to be on this account separate from that account, and et cetera, et cetera. Jeez. Works out. All right. So what I want to do here is go over the entirety of that 1 of 10 report, not just the little bit that I went over in the video, my most recently posted video, but kind of the entirety of that analysis of viral videos. And we will also, I'll also go into what they consider viral. I would consider it more successful videos. They wouldn't all, I think, fit everyone's definition of viral or even micro-viral, but I think successful is a good way to think about it, and that includes like truly viral or micro-viral, or as Sean Connell will say, viral for me. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, this is, I guess, the technical name of the report is what's in a viral name. So this should be awful. The screen, especially my top screen with just the white background. Is there a way to not have the background be white? I suppose I could have gone through and recolored all of their slides. I definitely didn't have time to do that. So I'm gonna get some not great lighting on me here, but I'll survive. All right, so here is the, whoop. You can tell that I'm not super used to using PowerPoint because I don't actually know how to go backwards. But all right, so here's kind of the stated goal, talking about kind of drilling down into common factors in what they consider viral, and getting, you know, insights into viewer behavior. So 1 of 10 is, and I didn't know this at the time, but I know it now, but they have like a thumbnail creation AI or something that they make. It's kind of neat. Never used it, but if you want to check out, it's in the description. It is an affiliate link because they have an affiliate program, and I was like, hey, why not? All right, and here's kind of what they did for their sample size. So all of these videos that they looked at are from 2025, which I find very, very interesting. Which is good because, you know, you don't, what went viral a decade ago is not what would go viral today. The landscape is just completely different. So 60 billion views and more than 15 years in time, like actual time, if you, meaning if you sat down and watched it from beginning to end, it would take you 15 years. It's insane. It's just an insane amount of data. 52,000 channels. So if you ever think, hey, you know, maybe YouTube is oversaturated at this point, just remember these are just the channels that had these successful videos on them in 2025. It's enough to where they were picked up by this study, which is, I mean, it's not going to be every channel that has a successful video, so chew on that one. YouTube's still got plenty of room. Here's where they kind of tell you what an outlier score is. If you're familiar with vidIQ, that little number, that little multiplier number you see, that's the outlier score. It's video views over median channel views. I believe vidIQ does it over like subscribers, if I'm not mistaken. But that is another way to, I suppose, calculate that. So it's just kind of going over what they tracked. So this is all very interesting, but it's just their methodology and what their data set was. Say I looked at stuff like brightness and word count and whether or not the thumbnails have faces and how many words are in a thumbnail, how many words are in the title, how readable the title is, Fleischer-Kincaid level, all this sorts of stuff. There's so many data points. And as a person who loves data, I love it. And as a person who loves data, there are actually some things that I wish that was dug into a little bit deeper. But and I will address that when I get to it. All right, so the first thing we're looking at is titles and what kind of common factors that they can find in titles that drive engagement. So okay, was that slide out of order? Title characteristics. Yeah, I feel like this slide probably belongs later in the presentation. Perhaps I accidentally moved it around. Anyway, so we're starting out with video duration, actually. So we're looking at video length and video views. This first graph that we're looking at is kind of the overarching one. It looks at things from 5 minutes all the way up to 250, and this is in 5-minute segments. So what it's looking at is how many views in 5-minute increments. And one thing that I found interesting is, okay, at 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we're not doing good. We're kind of below the curve here. But then we're above the curve from 15 to 25. So 15 to 25, if you're going to have a video that is less than 30 minutes, the 15 to 25 range, or more specifically, as we'll see when we drill down, it's probably more like 16 to 24, is the sweet spot. Because then we have this kind of valley here where everything is, I mean, it's not terrible. It's not as bad as 10 or 5 or up here in the much, perhaps way too long videos. Interestingly, though, the 250-minute video one is way up here. I'm very interested to know what that entails and how many data points they have for 250-minute long videos for more than 4 hours. But yeah, 30 to 90 minutes, not doing so hot. But it's not until at 70 minutes we start seeing it climb back up. But then when we get to 90, from 90 to about 180 to about 3 hours. So an hour and a half to 3 hours. If you're going to make a video that is longer, that is kind of where you want it. And I addressed this in my initial video as well. One thing that I believe it was Sean Cannell, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, of Think Media, one thing that he recommends doing is something called content marathons, where you take a bunch of your old content, stitch it together, maybe put some video like clip glue in between them to kind of give someone the ability to have this big long thing to watch. And honestly, this is making a little more sense now as we see kind of this hand-in-hand progression towards watching long form content on TVs, where you'll especially some of your older viewers, both older and younger viewers, tend to watch a bunch of just straight, here I'm going to watch YouTube for about 2 hours straight. So that makes sense why this is going well. And once you find something that you're watching, like, as I said this in the other thing as well, but in for a penny, in for a pound, the more you watch something, the more committed you are to watching it. Or, the more likely it is you wandered out of the room and it's just playing on your screen, but that still counts for views. So you've got that going for you. I think for the majority of us, though, the majority of YouTube videos, as we'll see here in a minute, here, where's that slide? 52% of YouTube videos are under 12 minutes for videos that are 30 minutes or less. Was there a slide that showed how many videos are 30 minutes or less? No. See, that was one data point that I wanted. I suppose I could go through and add all of this up, but I don't want to. I would like to know what percentage of videos do fall in that 30 minutes or less category. Because knowing how many are less than 12 minutes in the 30-minute or less category, that's all well and good. But there isn't something, unless I missed it, that shows what percentage are 30 minutes or less. So that's the first nitpicky data point I wish I had. But here we're breaking it down into the 2-minute segments. This is what I was talking about before. And again, in the video, we're still in territory that I kind of went over really well in my initial video, where you start seeing it at 14 minutes, but really the 16 to 24 minute range, that's real nice as far as your median views versus the duration. So essentially views per minute, if you want to think of it that way. 14 to 24 minutes, if you're doing less than half-hour videos, is kind of what you want to shoot for on average. Now, that might not be your personal ones, but statistically, that's where we're landing. Now, statistics are as useful as statistics are, and that's very reductive, but there's a million words that could be said about how to use statistics, and when they are and are not useful. But this is just kind of, this is more of a, I think it's neat to know. I'm not sure how ultimately useful it is. Like here, I think this is very interesting. The 8-minute one is so far below the curve. And 8 minutes is what a lot of people shoot for, because you get that mid-reel roll. And I'm wondering if because of that is why it's here, because you have such a larger data point of videos to go from. So here's another way of looking at the median views by share of videos by video duration. So the duration. The red column is the percentage of the total video in 2-minute increments. So red, you want the, essentially breaking this one down, you want the blue bar to be higher than the red bar. So I appreciate the way they color coded this. Because the higher the red bar is what percentage of videos are that long. And then the higher the blue bar is this over here. So here's the share of the videos. Most videos you see are this 10-minute mark, which is that goes. I wonder if this is the cutoff. That's one thing I don't know. Is an 8-minute and 1-second video, is that in the 10-minute category or is that in the 8-minute category? I would be willing to wager that it's in the 10-minute category, given what the 10-minute one looks like. But unfortunately, I don't have that information. But it makes kind of logical sense. So yeah, we are looking at just way more 8 to 10-minute videos than there are pretty much every other kind. And then, unsurprisingly, the 4-minute one, like the 2 to 4-minute one, because 2 minutes below that is shorts, right? As long as it's vertical. But, you know, generally if you're going to shoot a video that short, you're probably going to make it a short. That's where you want it to show up. So then you've got this covering all of the shorter long videos, and then you've got the ones that don't know that they should be going for mid-reel ads, and then you've got the people who do know they need to be going for mid-reel ads here. But you see the blue bar is how it performs, essentially. So the higher the blue bar, the better. And then the red bar is just kind of how many videos are like that compared to like videos in general. And here we are again, 52% of videos under 30 minutes are less than 12. I found that very interesting, but not particularly surprising. Most videos are shorter than 15 minutes. That's saying the same thing twice. Not very helpful. See, I would like to know what the percentage of total videos, the videos that are 30 minutes or less are. But yeah, again, 18 to 24 minutes performs the best. Just amazing. That was probably the first thing that really leapt out at me as a surprising thing to me. But then I thought about some of the people that I watch, and at least two of the people I like the best, like Rob the Maritimer, off the top of my head, his videos all fall pretty much in this sweet spot, and he's one of my favorite creators. So, hey, ahead of his time, I suppose. So this breaks it down, and I didn't go into this in the videos at all, in my video at all, but this breaks it down by niche. I don't personally put a lot of stock into this, mainly because, you know, well, I know what my niche is, and that's kind of what I look at. But the optimal duration does change based on niche. Like makeup and beauty peaks early and then gets good again later. Whereas health and fitness kind of peaks in that 23-minute range. Food peaks earlier in the range. Broad entertainment, that is your just kind of generally entertaining things, mostly challenges. I think Mr. Beast, challenges or things of that nature. That's broad entertainment, just people who are on the platform trying to entertain you that aren't playing games. Gaming content, right there. Business peaks way down here at 28 minutes, almost off this graph. And then finance, wildly peaks in almost in the short category, which is I really want to know more about this data point right here. Like, I can see why makeup and beauty would have a peak here at 2 minutes, because a tutorial on that, like how to give yourself smoky eye, or you, I've pretty much exhausted buzzwords I know about makeup. I could see why a 2-minute video of that would be like, you look something up, you watch it, and you're done, you're good. Finance, I'm not sure why that would peak so early. I don't have a good idea of why that would be. So I think I probably want to revisit what they define as finance, which it'll show in a later slide. Now, one thing that I didn't get into in the video is it breaks all videos down into 2 general categories, either educational or entertainment. Now, I found this interesting. A lot of times, sometimes you see people say a third category, which is like informational. I think informational can be cut into either educational or entertainment by and large. Like, for the most part, a lot of informational stuff is just entertainment anyway, or it's educational. I think people who try to make it a third category all by itself are just trying to make themselves stand out, if I'm being perfectly honest. So educational and entertainment is the way I split it up personally in my mind as well. So I was happy to see that. Also, I hate this thumbnail so much. Like, I cannot say exactly how much I hate it, but it is so much. All right, so this is going to be consistent from now on. Blue stuff, educational, red stuff is entertainment. So here is talking about 4 or 10 minutes long. Again, I'm pretty sure that means 2 minutes and 1 second through 4, and 8 minutes and 1 second through 10, which makes sense for both categories, honestly, because it's kind of and I hate to say it, it's the minimum for what the goal is for that video. So people try to hit that minimum threshold, and then they're like, okay, I'm done. Or, they'll not edit out just enough pauses to get to 8 minutes and call it a day. Whereas if they were being honest with themselves and edited all their pauses the same, they would be at like 7 minutes or whatnot. So just something to keep in mind. What you see your views on your educational content are much higher at these shorter durations. And it isn't until later that entertainment starts winning out on median views. But both types of video follow the same basic pattern. So very interesting there. So both perform peak at the 20 to 22 minute mark, which is interesting. That's more or less what the slide is saying. Share videos by video duration. Okay, sorry, I had this slide mixed up in my head. So yeah, the share of the videos for shorter stuff, educational tends to have a greater share of the videos in the shorter range, and then entertainment has a greater share by view in the longer range. That's what they're saying there. But here you have views by video duration. You see entertainment is just above. Entertainment in this, we'll hit this later in another slide, but entertainment just gets more views on YouTube. It just does, which is interesting because I mean, I've seen a lot of YouTube gurus talk about how, educational is the main thrust of YouTube. People go to TikTok or Instagram to be entertained, but they come to YouTube to learn. They may come to YouTube to learn, but more of them come to YouTube to get entertained. That is what the data shows. So that is kind of a slap to the face to some people's advice there. All right. So now we're into the title stuff. How long should we make the titles? By the data, and I wish I had the 1 through 4 numbers here. I'd like to know what those were and to see if this was more a bell curve or if it really, like, if one word titles did super well. But we don't get to see that. So you see there starts to be a drop down here in the 6. And then from 9 to 10, there's this huge drop down. So from 5 to 6, there's a big drop down. And then percentage-wise, 9 to 10 is a much larger drop. Even though it's roughly the same number, the percentage is much higher. So the more words, the worse. And we'll see this in a later slide, but educational has a little bit more leeway there. But entertainment, more words is worse. And we will see that in a moment. But word count versus median views. So pretty much showing the same thing. You've got your 5-minute has out of 5 up through 16, 5-minute does 5 words does the best. Just look at how long that video, how long that is. That is an insanely, okay, this is interesting. 15 words falls in the 14 word category. So this is minimums then. And it's saying that 10 words falls in the 9-word category? That, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. I wonder if this slide is just wrong. Like, what they meant to circle is incorrect. There's a couple slides, and I tried to have a good idea of what I was going to talk about beforehand, especially because, who knows how off track, how derailed I might get, and the chance that maybe someone will ask a question. But again, I don't really expect to have any viewers. But I did notice some slides I took a little bit of an issue with. I'm not sure if it was a mistake in the making of the slide or just in the methodology. And I tried to make note of that, but this was what I missed. I did not notice that. All right, so titles with 30 or fewer characters receive nearly 60% more views than those with 70 characters. Now, 70 characters, I want to say it's either 60 or 70 or somewhere in there. I should have looked this up, where mobile truncates it. And it might be even different based on mobile screen, but I just know that it's somewhere in there. But you see even, and then after that, it just kind of evens out. Doesn't matter how many characters the title has, you kind of sit in this, at least in the successful videos, right around the same number of views, which I found interesting. But as far as you get up here to below 30, now what does that mean exactly? 30 or fewer. So that's everything that's 30 or fewer versus 70. I'd like to know what 30 was exactly. And here's the first place I think it starts talking about cognitive load. Essentially, you don't want your stuff to make people have to think, because people aren't thinking while they are scrolling. They are almost by definition not they scroll until they hit something that catches their attention and then they check it out, not because they're thinking about every title they read as they scroll past it, especially. And that's, I think, another reason why more words is worse in entertainment versus educational, because with educational you're generally looking for something specific, or at least something specific to be learned on. Look at this insanely long. Look, I love how both the name of the title and the words in the thumbnail are just it's just insanely long for both. And this is just that's just essentially the title again, which is a no-no as far as I'm concerned. Why does this keep coming back? All right. So when it comes down to it, people tend to title their videos about the same length, regardless of whether or not they're in educational or entertainment video making, which is interesting. However, like I said before, the entertainment ones massively better at the lower word count than the higher. Like the substantial drop here is just crazy. Whereas there's also a drop in educational, but it's a much lower, it's a much more gradual drop. All right, so this goes into what the Flesch Reading e-score is, which is, I remember WordPerfect used to give all of the stuff that I would type up for school back when I was a kid. Flesch, Kincaid, grade level thing. And you wanted to shoot for, you know, whatever. And now we know that grade 8, to ensure your content can be read by 80% of Americans, while a useful statistic, is also an extremely depressing one. But yes, shorter sentences, good. Complex words, bad. So fewer words, fewer words and fewer syllables make things easier to read and thus get you more clicks. You see, very high readability score gets you 20% more views than just a, it's like 78 to 100. That's 25% more. That is an insane jump. But even the jump from 95 to 100, like we're talking that's what, 47,000 to 54,000. So 7,000. Oh, I'm too tired to be doing math like this. That's what, like a 13%? It's 13% difference? Somewhere, but it's not more than 13. So it's somewhere between 12 and 13. It's nearly 13%. That is substantial. Or wait, no, that's 13% going here. So it's 13% down. So I'm going to babble to myself about math real quick. So 7 into 47 is what I actually want to be doing here. My kids are up, which is upsetting because it is 10:30 at night and they are 4. That's like 15%. It's like a 15% decrease there, increase there. So that's substantial. That is insane for how much of a difference there is between 95 and 100%, 106 as far as readability. That's not that big a gap in readability. but the percentage more views is substantial. It's crazy. So it's going in there. Basically the takeaway here is you go to a Flesch Kincaid calculator online and plug your titles in there and try to make it as readable as possible, which is just straight up common sense to begin with. So here's some examples of what a low readability title is. Inclusive Friendly Karen gets educated and dismissed after failing to get us trespassed over filming. That title makes me upset. Just a lot. This is very upset. Their thumbnail must have been great. I see Logan Paul slaps Punk. That's excellent. That's wrestling. Punk would be CM Punk, and I would watch that video because watching CM Punk get slapped would be something I would be interested in, even if it was by Logan Paul. All right. Now, should your title have numbers in it? So, a little more than a third of videos have numbers in the titles, but videos with numbers have 11% fewer views, which I found interesting. And then it breaks down here some of the top performing titles with numbers. And I looked at this already. You've got the date on here. You've got numerical, like dollar amounts, just a number of days, an X versus 1 type thing. So this isn't really that big of a difference. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think if your title warrants having numbers in it, use them. But yeah, it looks like putting the year in the title, not great for virality. Not great for success. And that's possibly, there's a number of reasons that could be. But I think mainly because stuff with the year in it has a lot of upfront success, and then it'll taper off. Dollars does worse than other kinds of like general numbers, but all of it does worse than no numbers, which is all very interesting. But I don't think we got enough information there to really be super actionable. So again, I think if your title warrants numbers, don't let that deter you too much. The difference wasn't so much that you should be like, oh no. But it should give you pause about putting the date, the year in there just because you want to put the year in there, because that seemed to perform worse just in general, like by a substantial margin. So here's the kind of like what the title makes you feel. Like, is it a negative emotion, a positive emotion, or neutral? Now, most videos fall in the neutral emotion category, and then positive, and then negative. However, negative titles get the most views, and then neutral, and then positive. And that kind of comes down to human psychology. People are always kind of looking to either find something good or avoid something bad. And avoiding something bad is a bigger driver of human behavior than finding something good. That's why addiction starts out. Not that we're not. Let's not. We're not going to touch too much on this, but it starts out trying to get something good, and then eventually turns into avoiding something bad. So that's when you get to that part, that's when it's harder to give it up. But yeah, that's just kind of human behavior there. So that makes sense when it comes down to it. But then you again have this massive difference in the share of videos that are made. So yeah, you make negative titles and you just have a better chance of the video doing well. And that's true in both the educational and entertainment space, which is wild. And it's the same with neutral and positive. Kind of the step down is roughly the same. And one thing I found interesting was educational negative titles, percentage wise, do better than entertainment. But again, that's because you're learning how to avoid something bad generally with a negative title like that. So that's what people want to do, is they want to avoid the bad thing. And then here is a breakdown of it by niche. This is the share of titles. So art is generally positive. Um, Makeup and beauty, generally positive. A lot of the other ones are somewhere between board entertainment, broad entertainment, right? Yeah, broad entertainment has the highest share of negative. But gaming is also negative a lot, not surprising. Movies and TV shows, other. We'll get into what other means. Like animal falls into other, like cute animals, and history falls into other, and other is basically everything that isn't explicitly spelled out here. Tech has a much higher positive to negative ratio than I would have expected. Now, this is much more useful than this. So this is showing you what kind of the share of the different sentiments are as to what is out there. This shows you how things do by sentiment. Look, art is insane, because remember, art had mostly positive titles, but their negative ones, such a huge difference. Gaming as well, but again, not surprising. Movies and TV shows like the positive. Not a lot likes positive that much. Health and fitness and food both do, which is, I could say, body positivity, and you want food that tastes good. You're more interested in food that tastes good than food that's bad. You're kind of watching bad food stuff for Schadenfreude, but you're watching good food stuff because that's good food, you want to eat it. So I could see that being a driver of behavior. That's not surprising. And then, I guess people want to see positive, they check out positive looks at movies and TV shows. So yeah, that makes sense too when you think about it, because you see a negative title about a TV show and you almost don't need to watch it. You're like, okay, I wasn't going to watch that anyway, and I guess if it's bad, I don't need to. So, but if it's good, you kind of want to know why. If it's bad, you want to know why too. Okay, never mind. I'm just talking about my rear here. I don't know why that would be. Let's think about it logically. No, it doesn't matter enough for me to press into. So yeah, let's just know that is what the data shows. What you think, anything, any kind of guess I would make towards it would be just that. It would be a guess. It wouldn't be data driven. I would really need to see a breakdown of what kind of negative titles and what kind of positive titles. Like, are they positive titles about bad shows, or that's all subjective anyway. So yeah, I guess it is a very subjective niche. But gaming being negative and art, I mean, that's stereotypically two of the most pretentious groups of people: art lovers and gamers. And shockingly, just with that stereotype, the negative medium views by a sentiment by that much is not surprising. Just playing right into the stereotype. This one is so interesting they wanted to point it out. So even in the makeup and beauty niche, negative titles drive views. I mean, but yeah, it's not that interesting. I guess maybe you could tell this is a guy who did this. I mean, I'm a guy, obviously, but I mean, if you think about it, when you are going for makeup and beauty, you are probably going to avoid something negative. So that would have a negative title. So that being a view driver is not surprising to me. Morning sheds on TikTok are pointless. You're still going to get wrinkles. Yep, see, that makes perfect sense. So you're going to have the Schadenfreude kind of views there as well. Okay, tile emotion, determine dominant emotion for each video. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember this section now. There's just a lot of data here, and keeping it all straight in my head is interesting. So this is the emotion that you're supposed to be, the emotion that the title evokes, and how well that does by view share. So joy, controversy, and anger win out by a lot. They beat out fear by a lot more than I expected them to. These other ones, I would have expected maybe curiosity to be a little bit higher. But fear being so much further down compared to anger is surprising to me. Now see, joy and funny, that's something can be funny and not joyful. That's one problem I had with this. That is not enough information, joy/funny. Like, see, this is joy/funny, but it's also kind of a negative thing. So that's interesting right there. Disturbed guy is pathetic. That's anger. Yeah, I don't know. They had LLMs evaluate emotions, which is not an LLM's strong suit, being, you know, an emotionless machine. See, the disturbed guy is pathetic. That didn't trigger sad or controversy. It triggered anger. I don't know why that would be. This triggering anger, that's not surprising. So yeah, I had some issues with that. I'm glad it was such a small section, because I'm not really sure how actionable any of that data is, or even how accurate it would be. So this is straight up evaluating entertainment versus educational. There's roughly the same amount of both on the platform. So we're kind of circling back to that, you know, people come to YouTube for to do or for educational. Nope, they they come here to make them about equally. But but look at this difference. The median views on entertainment so much higher. So much higher. So like apparently what a lot of people think they do about YouTube is wrong. Let's just look at those numbers for. There's not a lot in this section to even discuss, so let's just kind of bask in those numbers for a moment. Those of you who are here to entertain people, all right, just know that you're not barking up the wrong tree. You actually have a, I don't want to say easier because I find saying stuff like that to be almost negative in its connotation, because then if you're not doing well, then you feel bad. But it's showing that it is certainly viable, more viable, maybe even. All right, so here we go. This is a big one for a lot of people. Best performing niches. Now this isn't factoring in what is it? CPM. So this isn't going to factor in like how much money you make, or is it RPM, revenue per meal? I don't remember off the top of my head right now. But this isn't factoring in how much more you make for, say, doing something in the finance space than you do for doing something in the entertainment space or the sports space or the gaming space. But this is kind of about engagement. So this axis is views, and this axis is kind of virality. And then how big the bubble is what percentage of the videos it kind of takes up. So other is a big, the biggest bubble, which we'll get into. I think the next slide or the one after it kind of goes into what other is. Gaming and broad entertainment are up here. They have much less of a chance of going viral, but they are a big driver of just general views. Food as well. Movies and TV shows, both. Big driver of views and a higher chance of going viral. So that's kind of what this all kind of entails. Finance, poor finance, down here at the smallest driver of views and the smallest chance of going viral. However, like one of the best ways to make money per click in AdSense revenue. And I mean, consulting money for financial consultants. So yeah, it might be all the way down here, but don't let that even for a second make you think that it's a bad niche in any way, shape, or form, because it is not. So they call these the blockbuster topics, things that are generally get a lot of views and then also have a good chance of going viral. And here it goes into other. Animals, politics, history are the most viewed subcategories. Another. I'm surprised politics was not its own thing. You'd think it would be. There's a lot of political content. Oh well. So stuff we already talked about. Now these is this is the only place this data exists on any of the slides. But while these are here on the graph, kind of in the not the best area, but they might have lower views and a smaller chance of going viral, but they tend to have large followings. So I'm actually a little surprised that the lifestyle and vlog didn't kind of fit into that as well. You'd think that those people would specifically have large followings, but I mean, that's what they're going for in any case. here's something about sports. Sports, which is just dead in the middle of the graph. Sports videos are shorter than average, which is interesting. I guess because it's mostly just doing highlights, and highlights are, by definition, kind of pop, 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 done. Death of Indian e-commerce. I want to know who these people are so much. Just kind of talking about the different niches here. So, if you don't know your niche, this is kind of interesting to look at as far as what different niches are and what you can sort of maybe expect out of them on average, but not like the most interesting as far as stuff that we can make decisions are based around. Like, unless you are just starting out, in which case, if you're just starting out and you don't have a good idea of what you want to do, that's what these slides are for. Gaming. Few faces in gaming, that's not surprising. Thumbnails are colorful because, yeah, games are. Little text, you know, the screenshots are generally telling the story. All of that makes sense. Okay, now we're into the broad entertainment. I said we would be revisiting this. So, 6% of all videos fall in this category. And it gets a very large share of median views, which is really nice. 24% above the average. Spectacles and challenges. Those are the kind of the two things. And that's, you know, it's essentially Mr. Beast's MO, right? Spectacles and challenges. I found this interesting. Challenges garner 90% more views than the average video. So if that is the kind of thing that you're wired to do, go for it. Like, just go for it. I'm going to look up this video. I think the 24 hours in a trampoline park video. I'm very interested to watch it. I don't know if anyone remembers the book, from the mixed up files of, and then some ridiculous name, where like these runaway kids lived in a museum. I don't know why. I know why I'm thinking about that. I don't know why I'm talking about it. All right, so moving on. Food. Food titles. Yep. Positive. I want to know what this is. All right. We're out of me just kind of rambling about niches now. Back to actionable data that we might be able to use for to kind of to guide us in what we might want to do if you want to, you know, follow statistical averages. So 3/4 of videos have faces. That's not surprising. But faces and no faces performed pretty much the same. Like, very little difference in those two numbers, which is surprising. So if you're one of those people who doesn't want to put your face in your thumbnails, don't. You don't need to. Anyone's face. Doesn't have to be anyone's face. And then I also thought this was very interesting. And I touched on this in my video. But the no faces outperforms one face. But 2, 3, and 4 faces outperforms all of those. And you know, the more faces you have, the more of a story you're being told with facial expressions. So I think that helps. But the fact that one face is worse than no faces, and then it jumps up to 2, 3, and 4 is very neat. Here's an example of what one face and multiple faces look like. Yes, I figured that one out on my own. You know, I'm interested to watch this video too, this declutter one. This goes into whether or not the channel size matters when it comes to face versus no face. And the answer is not really. At the super, super, super big channels, yeah, having a face inches out having no face, but it's really not by that big a percentage in any of these, one way or the other. Now, breaking it down into by niche, that's where we can start to get a little bit of differentiation. So having a face is better for broad entertainment and food, and worse for gaming and movies and TV shows, which is surprising. I'm not there to see your face. Well, again, I keep thinking of it as the person who's making the video face, and that's not what this is saying. It's saying any face at all. So any face at all for gaming, that makes sense. For movies and TV shows is a little surprising. Here we go. Finance, having a face in finance, awesome. Because you're following the person there. You trust that person to give you financial advice. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Gaming makes sense. Food, it's close enough, makes sense. Art, I'm not really sure. Not a niche I've ever really even touched on personally. Art. I'm a Philistine, so the fact that business no face does so well versus finance face does so well is a little surprising to me. Lifestyle and vlog, face doing well, also not surprising. You are following the person. Makeup and beauty, you are probably doing something, looking for something with a face, because that's where most makeup and beauty is kind of centered. And the rest of these are not anything really to write home about one way or the other. Yeah, we touched on all that. So, educational and entertainment have faces roughly the same amount. Um, Educational tend to do better than entertainment when they have faces, which is not surprising. But not really by a big enough difference either way to really matter. I think it more matters. The niche differences matter more than anything else. So this is the information I think you should really be focused on. And then only if you're in one of these very large differential niches. All right, this is the one that kind of just blew me away. 84% of thumbnails have text in them. That's not surprising. The fact that thumbnails without text perform better than thumbnails with text, it came out of nowhere for me. Now, when I thought about it, it made sense. Because this is a study of successful videos. So if an image is successful at stopping the scroll, it's got to be pretty successful. But it's just shocking to me Views by image has text. Still, looking at it right now, this is 20% less or 25% more, depending on which way you look at it, pretty much. And then, even when you do have text, you want it to not be a whole lot of the thumbnail. So I know so much where people will fill all of their negative space, and I've been guilty of this plenty of times in the past. They'll fill basically all of their negative space with making the words as big as possible so that it is legible on mobile. But turns out that's not what does well. Taking up as little of the thumbnail as possible with text is what does well. This is no image, right? No image text, or no image text also performs well. So I want you to think about that. It's just like, here's a color with a word on it. That does well. I wish they gave the number. Like, just telling me it also performs well, that's not helpful. I want to know what that means by well. No image text. Text ratio versus median views. So it would need to be like 100%. I want to know the 100% number. What is the 100% text ratio? Or whatever. I want to know what Norma is. Maybe I'll look that up later. An ND filter, in case you're curious, is sunglasses for a camera. Essentially, it lets you use a camera outdoors without changing the other settings so much that you lose shutter speed or focal length. So you put essentially sunglasses on there, and then you can do cooler stuff with your camera. Look at, I love this thumbnail. It just has so many words. I would never, I've looked at this thumbnail like a dozen times, and I still don't think I've read it all the way through. Which I think speaks to what it's saying here. So now we're looking not at word count, but character count. So 10 characters at most is optimal. So four looks to be just the best. And that makes sense. That's going to be your questions, your question words, like your what or your why or your, your short declarative statements. The 4-letter words carry, well, there's a reason the actual 4-letter words are 4-letter words is because they just have that kind of impact. And I mean, that's true for even 4-letter words that aren't 4-letter words. So that's not surprising when you think about the psychology of words and letters, letter count in words. It's another thumbnail I've looked at like half a dozen to a dozen times, and I still have not read all the way through, and I'm going to continue not to. So yeah, it's just kind of reiterating the findings. Less or no text in a smaller area performs better. That's the main takeaway there. So yeah, less than 10 characters, less than 7% of the image gets the most median views. Now the question is, Is this, I assume this means 1 to 10 characters and 1% to 7% of the image. I can't imagine this is supposed to include that. I get a little nitpicky when it comes to data. Okay. Spicy pork. Yeah, I'm interested to watch that. Just based that thumbnail would make me stop and look at it. That's for sure. That looks delicious. Okay. Yeah. And now to look at it for educational versus entertainment. Entertainment thumbnail is more likely to have text. But still, regardless of if it's educational or entertainment, no text performs better for both. So that's just how it is. And it doesn't break that down into niche, unfortunately. That's another kind of that was a point that I would have preferred to have the data on broken down by niche, but we don't get it, sadly. But we get into some color theory, which is fun. I mentioned this in the video. I was surprised that red was so far down. Actually, I think that was the part of the video that I had to cut because there was no sound for reasons that I don't actually know the answer to. So I had to chop that out. But what I was saying in that part of the video is that this is talking about how it's the dominant color. Whereas a lot of people, myself included, with the words in their thumbnails will have like, here's your kind of neutrally white or your grayish color, and here's the second word, and it's in red. It's like just start, or don't quit, or yes, that kind of thing. Now, that might not count as red as far as what the dominant color is. So I would have liked to see data on text colors versus just dominant color in the thumbnail. But as far as data for dominant color in the thumbnail, cyan, green, orange all perform very well. Pink, but cyan and green just blow the others out of the water. I don't know why it says yellow. Cyan, green, and yellow. But yellow's all the way over here. Yellow, orange. Maybe they added yellow to orange. I would like to sit down with the person who did this and ask them specifically about that. Because, yeah, okay, if you're just looking at the summary, but then you look at the numbers, orange is not appreciably better than pink. So, which is not appreciably better than purple. I think I would take everything here, this 50,000 median view, and look at that up. Because if you're not going to do cyan or green, doing any of these three is pretty much very, very similar to each other. But yeah, I can see it. Like, I can see why those thumbnails would be showstoppers. They're bright, they catch the eye. Green contrasts with a lot of things that you'll see. And it pops really well against both white and black. So again, not surprising that it stands out in thumbnails. Let's see, orange, yellow, orange, orange. See, I wouldn't say the dominant color in this one is orange. Dominant color in this one is like black or blue. The yellow color group receives 58,000 median views. I don't understand. This bar graph and what it's telling me here are not, they don't jive. So I had some issues with this section, and I would like to drill into it with the person who released this report. All right, so thumbnail, so we're going to kind of ignore that. But let's just, the key takeaway here, cyan and green, yeah. And red is a dominant color, kind of meh. I wonder if they even have black as a dominant color attributed correctly, if this one isn't black as a dominant color. Or I don't know if that's blue or black, but either way, the fact that it says orange is a dominant color here is interesting to me. Orange is like the third color I noticed looking at the thumbnail. Like, I noticed the white first, the white and the black, because they contrast so much. I noticed the red before I noticed the orange, probably because it's central. And orange and green are good contrasty colors to each other. So that's kind of some good color theory here. All right. So brighter images are better. That's really the main thing we're going to take away from this entire section. The brighter, the better, which is sad because so many of my thumbnails are like dark and moody, mainly because the studio that I use is dark. So I need to light it up a little bit more when I take pictures for thumbnails, I think. Or just use just a straight colored background or something personally. Do not like this thumbnail. It freaks me out. And that is the end of the presentation. Just really not a lot to say about the brightness. Brighter, better. Done. So yeah, that is the entirety of this presentation. And then there's this extra slide here at the end. I'm not sure why. Best I can tell is it was for some other presentation. Because, I mean, or maybe a section that they were going to use and took out, and then this one slide kind of stuck around. But either way, it's there. I don't know why it's there, but it is. All right, so didn't have anyone hop in, and that's okay. I think I will start doing more regular live streams. See if I can't build up some people. Just Q&A, get people's brains to it. Maybe audit people's channels live or something to that effect. Just something to do. It's fun. I enjoy it. Like I said, I do live streams with my review channel, and I have a couple, some just regular people who pop in and chit chat with me for however long I keep the stream going, and then that's it. And that's just for a channel that almost by definition doesn't normally, wouldn't normally benefit from live streams. Wow, look at the difference there when I minimize the super bright screen. Okay, yeah, just the amount of, and that's harsh light too coming off of that. We're going to go into lighting here pretty soon in the channel, but the aforementioned, I keep promising it, the camera and how to shoot with your phone videos are next. I might have one video in between that arc and right now. I haven't decided whether or not I have almost a standalone video kind of planned. It's either going to go before or after this arc coming up. Either way, we'll see. Well, I appreciate anyone who actually tuned in and watched this after the fact. I might go through and edit this up and post it as an actual video later. But until that time, I will see y'all in the next one.